Friday, and welcome to another episode of Candid Shar'n. So today's episode is one of those guest episodes, which means that there will be no Black Mirror segment. However, the great thing about guest episodes is that I get to introduce you to a wonderful person, right? Now, this week's episode marks the start of a series that I am calling Family Matters. And the Family Matters series will just be a bunch of episodes that pop up sporadically as the show goes on, where I will have at least one member of my family as a guest on the show. So we'll talk about anything and everything. It won't just be, family related matters. And yeah, so the first family member of mine who is the first guest on the Family Matters series is my brother, my cousin, my friend, my tweenie, my sekuru according to Shona culture, all wrapped up into one person, and that's Tavonga Roy. Now Tavonga and I are very close friends, and we grew up together, and always a good time to chat with him. Full disclosure, this episode is the longest episode I have done to date, but honestly that's because it was just such good conversation and I couldn't stop it. And it is also, full disclosure again, as part of the disclosure, it's also my favorite episode to date. So if you enjoy it even half as much as I enjoyed having this conversation, then I know this is going to be a good episode for you. So just sit back, relax, grab something to drink, and enjoy the episode. Happy listening.
I'm gonna put a bandana on.
Seems to be having a good time.
You don't see good here,
Alright, we'll pretend as if we don't we see Kutaona girl. Wait, what?
Yeah.
We'll pretend as if we don't see Kutaona girl.
Are you serious? Can you actually see though?
I mean, it's okay-ish. Also, the lighting is a bit dark, but it's fine. It's okay. It's okay.
Go.
Yeah. Wait, that light in the back doesn't help. Good. Okay.
There you go.
That's a lot better. Yeah, how are you doing?
I'm great.
Yeah?
Great. Just out here, hustling. For the family, that's what we do everything for, hustling for the family. Yeah, I'm different now. I'm just trying to slowly, I know I'm not perfect, especially when it comes to communication.
Yeah.
But slowly, I'm just trying, one by one, especially everyone in the family, so I'm just trying one by one and just have the best relationship possible. So yeah.
Everyone in the family, kumba kwedu.
Yeah.
Okay. Sweet.
Yeah.
That's lovely, man. So I told you earlier on that I kind of wanted us to just do a chill, just chat with you. And so let me do a little introduction of you, and then you can add some stuff. Okay, so I don't know whether I should say Tavonga is, or whether I should say you are.
let
me say Tavonga. Do you want me to call you Tavonga or Roy?
Tavonga.
Okay, so yeah, everyone, welcome to another episode of Candid Shar'n. I am your host, QueenJoy, and I will be your host today and every other day. And today I am joined by my, what in English we call cousin, who's Tavonga. Tavonga is my cousin and he's my tweenie because we are only 5 days apart. I am older than him by 5 days. Let the record state, I am older than Tavonga.
Raw. Okay.
But yeah, we grew up together in Zim. And then when did you leave Zim, Tavo? Was it 2016 or 2017?
Yeah, 2016.
2016, yeah. So we both left Zim in 2016 to go for school, to go for college / university in the UK. I went over to the US for college, and Tavo, you went over to the UK for university.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and now we're here 4 years later.
Yeah.
And Tavo's grinding up to get his master's.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I just finished my bachelor's and I'm just working. So that's awesome, dude. Welcome to Candid, Shar'n.
Oh, happy to be here. Honestly, happy to be here.
Yeah, dude. Okay, so I guess I just wanted to talk a bit about what that transition was like for you moving from, Zim. And I think if I remember correctly, like your stuff kind of happened fast, right? Like towards the end with you like moving. Am I wrong? I could be very wrong right
what do you
now.
mean like fast? Like the process, while I was still in Zim?
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it was a bit of it took quite some time because like, the whole personal statement process. But it wasn't long though. Like it wasn't long. Like I started the application, I think initially in April. And
Okay.
then, excuse me, and then like a couple of things, like I had to do like the test, like the IELTS test. Like I guess maybe like the agency that helped us, that helped me to come to the UK. Like they could have like let me know well in advance, so that maybe we could have done like, we couldn't have done like last minute, because yeah, it was a bit last minute, because as soon as like I got like my visa, like I was literally just about to start uni, so it could have been done earlier, but yeah, we made it.
Yeah. So what time? When did you leave them? Was it like September?
Yeah, September the 12th.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because I remember you left soon after I left, but I know you were there. You were still in Zim when I left. I was actually just looking today. I was clearing my iCloud pictures, and
Yeah.
I was looking at some pictures from the day that I left, and they were all at the airport in Harare.
Yeah.
That was sweet.
It was
But
wonderful.
yeah, that's awesome. And how was that for you? How was that transition?
It was very emotional. It was very emotional. Like, and I had like a lot of mixed feelings. Like not mixed feelings as in like they were like bad feelings. It was just surreal. Like the way it happened, it was like so fast. And like the kind of person that I am, like I'm always like neutral. I like not to. I prefer myself not to get too excited when it comes to like situations that that like could go left. And I was like considering like what happened before. So I was like, I don't want to get my hopes too high. I don't want to spread it, like spread the word, and then boom, that
Right.
won't happen.
So for context, you'd like gone through the whole trying to go to the UK process, and it had not worked out. Okay.
Yeah.
Before.
So during the whole process, like I kept it low, but then at the same time, I was like, okay, if I go, like I'm gonna leave my sister. So it was a bit, yeah, and like it's the whole, because ever since I came to the UK, I only saw her once, like when I went back for Peace's
wedding.
Yeah, and it was good, and I only saw her for a week though, because like around the time that I came, it it was almost like when schools were about to open, and she's in boarding school, so I literally had a week to see her.
Yeah.
And luckily enough, it was during the holidays, like the wedding, so a lot of memories that day. And then when I came, I remember like literally like when I was saying bye to everyone at the airport.
After after Peace's wedding. This is like when
no,
you
no,
were initially leaving.
yeah.
Okay.
And like when I'm for like where they like check for, like will ask you for your passport.
Yeah.
Like I shed tears. Like no one saw it though, because I was beyond. I was like, raw. So now I'm in no man's land.
Yeah.
And I can't go back. Like the door won't even open even if you try. So it's like I want to give them like one last hug, like over and over again, whilst I'm still going. It's not realistic. So
yeah,
I was really emotional, but then I was like, I'm going to build my life, a career, and like the UK is a land of opportunities, and there's a lot of things that I experienced in the UK, and a lot of skills that I gained. I gained a qualification as well, and I'm getting like I'm trying to reinforce my first qualification as well, like with this master's that I'm pursuing.
Yeah.
And it's the transition as well. Like I'm so glad. Like there are some people like who don't have like family in a foreign country like yourself, and I can't imagine like what it must have been like for you. And for me, it was a bit easier, like the transition, because I had familiar faces. And it's not like the family that I have in the UK, like they never visited, so it's like I'm meeting them for the first time now, because they used to come visit. And so we had like an established relationship prior, so it was easier. And just having family, someone who looks out for you, like my brother show, it's, you know, like he was always looking out for me and like just giving me like tips and like just how, and because he knew the kind of person that I am, he tailored like the guidance to the kind of person that I am, to my character.
Yeah.
And oh, you know, if you want to do this, you know, you should go to do this route. Don't do that. You know, if you want to do this, or if you want to do that, make sure you do this, or you know. So it was a bit easier. So like even like when I got there, like in the first month, like Cheryl was like, oh, like when, sometimes when he'll drive me, we're just driving around, like he'll play like music and that. And in Zim, like we're not really exposed to UK music. You know, it's usually like US, like we're influenced by US artists. So I had like an American accent and the room salad, you know.
Those
So
Zimbabwean American accents.
I know, right? You know, it was a Zim / American accent, you know, like I want to be. Random salad, you know, I can't lie. And I guess I am still a salad, you know, at heart. So yeah, so he hooked me up to a lot of UK music so that I don't sound fresh, basically. Like a freshie is someone like who just came into the UK. So you can tell like they're fresh, their freshness from the way they dress and the way they carry themselves, and especially their accent. And because like I had a very well upbringing, like I used to like in our environment, like we used to speak English with you lot, and it helped, you know, it helps, you know, in terms of my eloquency, in terms of speaking English. Like my written English was good, but my spoken English like would have been far less eloquent if I didn't speak it on a regular, because you guys motivated me. You guys you were not like my wannabe salad. You guys were the salads. You know? So like you guys for you, like for you, Marty, I don't know, like, you know, and like Chido, like you guys like had, how can I say it? Like you guys like had the salad in you. I was trying to get this shit. Do you know what I'm saying? It came natural. Like you guys were just yourselves. And for me, I was trying to fit in an environment. So like I was like, so I would try like copy like the US lifestyle, basically, because that's what I used to look up to. And it helped because Musala the one like a lot of people, like when I was in high school, they used to think like I'm bougie, like no vida. Like no, for me, I had like a vision, like because like I went like to for my A levels, I went to like second one high, like it's really like, it's not like overpopulated, but it's a lot of people, it's got a lot of character, and I had a really great experience. But then, you know, the environment, it was, you know, it's a high density area, so the people there, like they're not, like majority of the people, they're not like inclined to learn English, because like I guess like maybe their vision doesn't go as far as trying to think like, if I like, what are the skills, like what do I gain from speaking eloquently in English? And for me, I was like, I don't care, like I might become a news reporter. I had those kind of dreams. So I was like, if I'm gonna do that, then I have to learn English now. I'm like, I don't know what's gonna happen. And that, because I had this other mentality, I'm like, I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna be in the spotlight. So I have to make sure that I don't get sequaded. You know what I'm saying? So
I love it. Yeah.
So when show was were like hooking me up to UK music, I was learning like the language, the lingo, the slang, and the accent. And I picked it up quick because I didn't really struggle in terms of speaking in English. But for other people, for other international students, I can't say the same. And like a lot of people be like, when I would tell them like I'm an international student, they wouldn't believe me. And sometimes it's probably because of arrogance, ignorance, because they think like in Africa, we don't speak English. Like, what, you speak English in Africa? Like, and for me, in my head, I'm like, you guys are so ignorant. Like, you know, just educate yourself. And like, they're like, you don't sound like international. I'm like, what is an international student supposed to sound like? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, I was just brought up well, and I trained myself, I guess, you know, in some aspects. So it was better for me because I wasn't alienated as much, because a lot of people think like I'm cool, you know, like, oh, he's a cool.
You are cool.
Thank you. So it was a boost for me, like just having to learn, English, like prior to coming to the UK. And I never dreamt of, like, I dreamt of coming to the UK, but after the first failed attempt, like I was like, you know what, I could just use my skills in the UK, in Zim anyway. So, and like time wise, like when I started getting to know people and I was getting comfortable and other people were getting comfortable enough to introduce me to their other friends, like it was really good. But then at the same time, like there were some other people who had like a bad influence. And I started seeing myself hanging around the wrong people, and then I made some bad decisions sometimes. But I bounced back. I'm like, I have to remember like where I'm coming from. Like, okay, I've got a mission. I came here, for this reason. Like, yeah, but it was a good transition for me personally, because I don't know, like I'm just good with people. Like I'm a people person. Like,
I think you definitely are. I think you bring up a lot of like very interesting things, right? So I think for one, you spoke about when you were leaving at the airport, right? And you had gone past passport control and you kind of like shed a tear, right? Because of that. And I'm thinking back to my own experience, which was like, I was so excited to be going to school and to be going to the US for the first time. Like I'd never left the continent. I hadn't been like on a plane since, I'm trying to think, like I think for 10 years, just like stuff like that. Like it was a huge experience for me. And so I was so excited. And it never really hit me that like people might actually be sad that I'm leaving until the day off. And we were still at our house after in Harare, and we were like praying, at the end, how the family is, you pray before someone travels, and we're singing. And then like, we're all just like hugging each other as we're like about to leave the house. And she just started crying. And that's when it hit me. She was my older sister. And that's when it hit me like, wow, people might actually be sad that I'm leaving, because in the entire time, it was just, for me, it was nothing but excitement, right? It was just good times. Joy's leaving. Joy's gonna do her thing. But I think a part of it is also, you mentioned that like, there's people, it makes a difference if you have people who you're going to be with, right? Because for me, I was coming to a place where I didn't have family here. I think maybe at some point they did try to put me in touch with a cousin of his who lives in Chicago, but then, and actually like funny enough, that year I visited Chicago, but we weren't able to link up, unfortunately, when I was there. Or Tendai, like my brother's wife, Peace's wife, has a sister who lives in New York, and I've actually been to her house before and we've kind of hung out. But these were all like first time connections that I was trying to make, people I hadn't met before. But honestly, it hasn't been so bad, at least for me, even coming here without family. I think part of it is because of the way that the US college system is set up, the sense that like you're supposed to find like a community inside your college, and your college is supposed to be like home. It's supposed to be where you have a whole life. So I think my transition has been like was easy. I mean, it was 4 years ago because of that. But then also I wanted to say, you said Kutijoni, like, you were trying to put on Chisaladi. And I think in many ways that actually probably helped a lot with your transition, right? Because I think just your personality in general, I think you assimilate very quickly into places, which was very different for me, because even like when I was in high school, it just so happened that I went to like Chikoroche Masala, Arundel and stuff, but I never really considered myself to be like I was never part of the cool kids, even in high school, I always kind of just like took the step back. I never really wanted to be a part of the cool kids. There's just something about that I didn't really like enjoy, especially like in the context of like my high school. Those kids were just so, wow, I don't want to bash on those kids. I'm going to stop. But I think to me, there was just a certain level of like pretentiousness that I didn't like about it. It just seemed like all the kids were just trying to like put on airs just so they can look good to the other kids who were there. And it wasn't really a matter of like, these people are being genuine about who they want to be or like what they aspire to be. It was just like people putting on airs just so they can like look good. And so in that sense, I was never really a cool kid. And then I came to Yale and I found my group of people who kind of like had similar mentalities to me. And so, I mean, the transition wasn't bad despite not having family here. But I just want to say, I really admire that you assimilate very quickly and very well into spaces. I think that's just something that's always been true of you and continues to be true of you.
Thank you.
But yeah, I mean, so another thing that I think is difficult to gloss over when you talk about like moving to the diaspora is the issue of being Black. And, you know, like in Zim is like what I think we're like a 99% Black country. And so like anytime you're in a space with the people who you notice in the room are the people who are not Black, as opposed to the people who are Black, which is the case on this side of the world, you know, like we're the exception when we're in these spaces. And so I was wondering what your experience with that has been like, what your experience of race has been like in the UK, especially like in light of the fact that like you're a Black man specifically, right? And we've had all these protests happening, like earlier on in June, there was the whole George Floyd stuff happening this side. And I know those protests were literally international, including the UK. And I know our family doesn't really talk much about this stuff because again, we're a Zimbabwean family, like we're just used to being around other Black people. But at that time, I remember talking to like Obi, who's like one of our cousin's husband, and he was like kind of like bringing up the stuff of George Floyd, which was like new, right? Even my Shami was bringing up this whole issue of like race, just it was such a volatile time regarding issues of race. And yeah, I was just curious what your experiences of being a Black man has been like on this side of the world.
On this side of the world, I would, in terms of race, I've had like minimal like level of experience like in terms of racism towards myself, but I have spectated like and like witnessed like, you know, some form of racism. Oh, actually, I remember there was this one time last year. I went to Carnival with my best friend, Divine, and one of Shell's groomsmen, Nakarai, and you know, we're just having good times. We're just walking about, you know, it's hot, you know, and you know, I was doing gym, so I had my shirt off, you know, just vibes, pure vibes. And like, you know, it's packed. It's London Carnival. It's so packed, and then we're just walking, the three of us, and you know, we're just vibing, and then we got stopped by the police. Like three black guys, yeah. Because like none of us are actually like that tall. Like I'm not that tall. Like I'm like 5'10", and we don't seem like a threat. We didn't seem like a threat even then. Like when we got stopped, but then the way they did it, like it really, like I saw my life flash right before my eyes.
Yeah.
Like we just got stopped, and we're like, oh yeah, we just stop and search. I've been stopped and searched before that. And it wasn't as intense as that experience that I had at Carnival. Like when I got stopped prior, it was because there was actually a crime that had happened, like just recently, and I was coming from work, and they're like, "Oh yeah," and they explained everything. Like you would have different, like not all police are the same. Like not all police like are brutal or racist. The ones that I encountered the first time, they were they were so nice. They're like, yeah, the reason is there's been a stabbing in the area. So we haven't apprehended the suspect yet. So we're just looking, like, we were just trying to search for, you know, like you got a bag. We're just trying to see like if you got a weapon like that would match. Like, and they're like, it's nothing serious. Like, they explain like the procedure, like, section blah, blah, blah. Are you okay for us to, you know, to search you? Right. And it was calm, like it was blessed. And I'm like, okay, you know, I don't understand why people say, you know, like you know, like racial. I was like, you know, maybe, you know, there are some people, but for me at that time, it put like, for me, faith in, you know, in the justice system, in the police. I'm like, you know, they're actually not all bad. But then the London incident, we just got stopped, and it was so sudden. It all happened so fast. We got stopped, and then they put handcuffs on me, and like I was so traumatized. I was so traumatized. And like they for me, like they put it like this, and like I couldn't do anything. Like I couldn't literally do anything, and they had no right to do any of that. Like I wasn't arrested. It was just a stop and search, and quite frankly, because I've had a previous stop and search experience, it was, you know, I expect the same level of, you know, dignity, like for myself, like carry. And they just did us like animals. They treated us like, and it was was very traumatizing, that experience. And like all of my friends, like we all got cuffed, and they searched, my bags, and they're asking I'm like, you guys don't even have a reason. And like my Nakarai, he's quite, like illiterate when it comes to the law stuff and the rights. They're like, oh no, and then he stood up, and then he got out first of the cuffs, and then he tried to speak with the other police officers that were there, and
So he knows more about like law stuff.
Yeah. So they're like, it was crazy, man. It was actually crazy. Like they're like, they're asking me like my details. I'm like, why? I'm having fun. Do you know? Like I was actually having a good time. They ruined the day for me, bro.
Yeah.
They ruined. I wish I could just take it back. Like I was meant to have fun. They ruined the day. Like the day was just so cloudy for me. It was hot, but it was cloudy in my mind. So I would say like it depends. Like it's a risky situation because you actually never know like what you encounter with the police is gonna be like. Like whether it's gonna be good or bad, because the first one was good, like 10/10. Second one, 1 out of 10. Like it was just, and like there was like about 10, 13 police officers getting up on 3 boys. Like, come on, man. It's just.
And what?
I was gonna die. They almost put me down. I'm like, raw.
And at what point did they like let you guys go?
I think like we got stopped for like, I think maybe like 10 minutes. And like
you were handcuffed during this whole time.
Yeah, it felt like longer than 10 minutes. It felt longer because like they handcuffed me like so tight, and like I was feeling uncomfortable, and I was like, can you please like make it a bit loose here? Like I'm not trying to resist anything. But, and then for them it was like, oh, this guy is like, oh no, you're resisting. I'm like, yo, I ain't even like that. But anyways, that was just the police side of things. But I've had like I've only had like one lecturer at my university who was, I'd say, she had like a bit of favoritism towards Caucasian students. Like they would always, like all the Caucasian students, they would all get high marks, like, and for everyone else, they would all like really low marks, and it was apparent.
That's
and
crazy.
The sad thing is, that the lady was, she was my lecturer in the first year and second year. Third year I didn't have her. And I also had her for my masters in the first trimester, and I had low marks for all of them. Like literally all my friends who are international student and not Caucasian, they had the same experience as well. And it was just like, okay, we just have to pull up our socks. You can't please everyone. It is what it is. They're the head of the course, literally, like they are the head. So who are you going to complain to? So, and if you do that to the director of studies, it will just get things messy, because that's their head of the course. So it would really be messy. So I was like, let's just leave it. Other than that, I never really had like bad experiences like around the train or like walking in the streets. It was always good vibes. And the fact that there's an ACS society like in the UK universities. Like, I'm not sure if you have them, like the Afro-Caribbean Society, and it's just mostly like
is that like a thing across multiple universities?
Yeah.
Oh, that's awesome.
So it helped a lot. And funny enough, like my university is like Zim Central. Really? UK is Zim Central.
I don't know if
I'm telling you, like you'll find Zimbabweans everywhere. Like we are everywhere. Like there's no place, there's no city that I've been that there's no Zimbabweans. And like if I stayed for at least 2 days in that city, I would meet a Zimbabwean, definitely.
That's
and like
impressive.
you can just hear them like speak on the phone. I'm like, I'm like, yo, you my brother. Like, it's good, and it helped me feel at home because I didn't feel alone. Like in my university, especially my university, bro. Like there's a lot of Zimbabweans. There's a lot of Zimbabweans, and I was just friends with them. And I was like, I'm not trying to impress anyone, So the whole salary thing, it like reversed, because a lot of people in the UK, like if you're Zimbabwean, like they they value the fact that you speak, you know, like your native language.
Yeah.
And I could speak it fluently. It's not like I learned English neglecting,
And then,
you know, when I was still
yeah.
in Zim, because, you know, that was my environment. So I had the best of both worlds. I could speak both languages eloquently. So a lot of people admire that. Like, you speak like very eloquently, like your English, like I can speak deep Shona,
Right.
like reketa, you know. I was like, you know, like I'm like, or like, yeah, or like Ndogudizranare, you know. And a lot of people are confused. Like, what is that? I'm like, yo, it's ringing your phone, you know. And it's very entertaining because, like, if you know deep Shona, like a lot of people like are more drawn towards you, and it's like, oh, I want to learn more. Like it sounds bougie, but when you're in Zim, it doesn't look like that. Like you look like an outcast, because a lot of people they just want to learn like just the normal Shona, and they want to like maybe progress into English, so that they can be more out there, you know. Because if you are if your like basic like vocabulary is in deep Shona, is like deep like kureketa and Ruzanari, like if you're deep like that, or like you don't even say it right, you say mpunga. I don't even say that, but like if you're like that, then a lot of people like look down on you. They're like, oh, you know, like wakasara. And for me, I've never really cared about people's opinions. And the way I just did it, like in Zim, like it was fun for me. I'm like, you know, I'm putting my Shona skills into practice. And like I had a D in Shona. I failed Shona, but it was a D, not a U. You know, you know,
D's get degrees.
Yes. So you know, at least I knew something, because a U is ungraded. You know, it's just bad. So I was quite confident, and when I spoke like that deep Shona here, a lot of people appreciated it, and especially like the older generations. They're like, you know, manane tsika, like they stick to their roots, and it's like they're proper patriotic, because like if and I've had two people, like two university colleagues, who came to the UK while they were 2 years old. Both of them came to the UK when they were 2 years old, and basically when you're in the UK, you don't get taught like to speak Shona or to write Shona, read Shona. But the other person seemed so coconutty. You know what I'm saying? Like, you know, black on the outside, but very white on the inside. Like they had total no regard for their culture. Like they were not connected. And like, he was like, oh, I can't speak Shona. I came here when I was 2. And literally, someone who lives like in the next flat, like she came here when she was 2, but her Shona was unmatched. I could say it was better than me. Like she could speak it proper. Like if she was speaking, it was pure. And I was like, you know, I would like to hang out with those people more. And I'm sure, like the other person who doesn't really speak Shona, like they had a lot of friends, but in my opinion, it wasn't like my ideal sense of like identity, because it's, you know, like embracing your identity. But I guess you know, people are different. So where am I going? I'm just
no, I think I totally hear that. I think when you were talking about the incident that you had at Carnival, I remember you called me maybe a couple of days afterwards last year. I don't know if you remember the call, but I was just like, that really just like made me so upset, because I was like, you know, a lot of times these things seem very distant, you know, it's like they happen to other people. You're very aware of them, like the fact that, you know, you said you've been stopped a couple of times, you know, but it wasn't like a rough interaction or anything. But odds are you have been stopped more than like the average white person has. But, you know, in those kind of instances, you're kind of like, well, you know, at least nothing violent or nothing bad came out of those police interactions. But then when stuff like that happens, it's kind of like, whoa, this affects, you know, the people that you love. This affects you, it affects me, you know. And it's like, remember, that made me so upset when you shared that story with me. But yeah, and then you mentioned when you're talking about the whole Shona thing, that is such a real thing. And I think maybe, honestly, maybe one of the things that put me off about like the cool kids when I was in high school is there was this sort of like, because in Ini I came from like a government, Conway wasn't a government school, but honestly, if we're being honest, it falls under the category of government school, right? It's just maybe more expensive for no reason, but it's honestly a government school. And that's where I came from. And honestly, the people that I befriended in high school, like when you think of Ropa, Teresa, Asia, they were all coming from similar schools. They were all coming from government schools. Now, everyone else around us was coming from private primary schools. So there are people who, you know, most of the time they were speaking in English when they were at school. And even at home, they're usually just speaking in English to their parents. And so their Shona is either like non-existent or it's very broken and they're proud of it. They're proud of like that and they don't really care. And I remember like, because this is a private school, none of us did Shona for O levels. And so all our Shona lessons, people really didn't take them seriously. Remember, me and Teresa were like top of our Shona classes and we were so proud of the fact that we were so good at Shona, but like it seemed like no one really like gave. No one really cared that their Shona grade was bad or good. I remember people would laugh about the fact that for their Zimsec, they had like 7 units in Shona. You know, the more units you have, the worse it becomes. And the you can get is 9 and the lowest you can get is 1. And people were so proud of the fact that they had 7 units in Shona. And that used to baffle me so much. And I think when I came, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to stay away from the cool kids, because to me it was just like, you guys don't seem to particularly be proud of who you are. You're like just like aspiring to be someone else without taking any pride at all in who you actually are. And then when I came to the US and realized that, no, it's so real. Like when I got here, Yale is such an international community. Like you have people coming from literally all over the world just to be here. Like, I mean, 12% of the student body is international, but even more is like families of like immigrants and very few, like I think we have approximately, I think the college is like 47% white. And so like people are coming from various like backgrounds and like races and ethnicities and everything. And when you get here and you're coming from like Zimbabwe and you get here and you seem to know more about American culture and know more about America than you do about your own country, it doesn't look good. And now you have like nothing to stand on, right? Because all the Americans will always know more about America than you do. And they're gonna ask you, what do you know about your country? And you know nothing about your country, you don't know anything about your culture. It just doesn't look good. And you realize that like, and I think for a lot of people, maybe, I can't say I've seen this or experienced it among my friends here, but I would imagine that if you were to come into a community like this and you're someone who's kind of like been actively and happily denying your culture all along, you end up with this sort of like big culture-sized gap where you're like, I don't fully belong here, but I actively chose not to belong where I actually belong. So where do I go? So yeah, I really hear the Shona thing. It's such a real thing. I really think that kids growing up in the diaspora should, you know, by all means try to learn Shona or whatever their own language is, because at the end of the day, those are their people, you know, as much as we can learn English and stuff.
I lie. There's one perk of speaking in Shona in a foreign country. I know! Like, you don't understand. Like, all my friends, like, most of my friends, I'll say 90% of my friends, they're from Zim and they speak Shona like really good. And like, I like talking about people. Like I know it's a bad trait. I know the Bible. It says don't gossip, but hey, you know, it's just so fun. It makes life more interesting.
Yeah.
Like, you could talk like, not like I'm bad mouthing anyone, or like any racist remarks or like sexist remarks. No. It's just like basically like just talking about something silly.
Yeah,
and
exactly.
It teaches people to mind their own business. Like people are like, you're not letting them like into your business. But if you're speaking in English, if you're just like anyone else, you can't really speak loud because like or like about sensitive matters, or maybe slightly sensitive matters in public because you know you're in public and people understand you. But if you're with your people and you're just speaking Shona, like, and you say something, you know, it's proper jokes because it's like you're alienating yourselves whilst like in that community, you know, like in a bad way. Like you have privacy.
Like you're creating like a little home for yourselves in a place that's not quite. I completely hear that, man. I understand that, and I really wish I had more Shona speakers around me, because sometimes. Literally, I have one girl, a friend of mine called Phyllis. She grew up in Zim as well, and she's like still in school. She's at Yale. And every time she comes over to visit. Like, I feel like almost immediately I'll just start throwing Shona phrases out without even realizing, just because she's there and I'm comfortable to speak as I naturally would without taking regard of the fact that, like, people around me do or do not speak, like, the languages that I speak. And then I'll randomly just say stuff in Shona, and then I'll realize, oh, shoot, not everyone in this room speaks Shona, but Phyllis does. And just because she's there, I feel like this sort of, like, ease and comfort to just speak, you know? Yeah, and it's always nice to, you know, share some jokes.
I know, right?
Among ourselves.
It's just different. It's just different.
Exactly. And you know, some things don't translate. Like, some things just don't translate from English to Shona or from Shona to English or whatever language. And so it's always nice to have your people who speak your language.
I know.
Okay, great. So I guess we could sort of like segue. I don't know if I have a smooth segue of this, but I did want to say, I think the main thing that I wanted to talk about was, so in a previous episode, I think the episode when I talked about corporal punishment, I alluded to like Shona culture and the way that kind of works, and how like Pachiman Richelu, like in Shona culture, we don't have the word cousin. Yeah. That just doesn't exist. It's such like a distant term. And even when you talk about like cousins, I think I've realized in English, people don't really care, at least on this side of the world, people don't really care much about their cousins, which is the weirdest thing to me, because Tao, imagine.
I can't imagine.
Exactly. I can't, like, to me, it doesn't make sense, because the way I see my cousins, the way I see you guys, and the way I see like everyone is, and I might not, like when our parents were growing up, they were siblings, right? Yeah. Yes, we can take a break. Pause. Welcome back. Okay. So what I was saying is, so the way I see this, it's like, you are now Connie Tao, you've grown up and you are siblings, right? Like, you are each other's like immediate family. Yeah. And then you have a child, and then Connie has a child. And all of a sudden, Connie's child feels like she has no relationship to your child. Like, Connie's child only wants to know her own siblings. But what about my mother? What about Connie? Connie also cares about her siblings. Like, why are your own siblings more important than your relationship with your own siblings more important than your parents' relationships with their siblings, right? Yeah. It's like, I would be so crushed if you were to have kids and your kids didn't know my kids, or my kids didn't know Chido's kids or Peace's kids. That would like, that's ridiculous. That's such a ridiculous idea to me. It's like, yes, they're your cousins, but okay. Context, let's talk about this. The way the Shona culture works, right, is like, as I mentioned earlier, there's no cousins, right? So you and me is a little bit more complicated, because
I know.
But okay, so the way this works, and then you can help me out if I miss some things, yeah, right? But if you have siblings of the same sex, so 2 brothers or 2 sisters, when each of those brothers has a child, those children consider each other like siblings, like brother, sister. There's no difference with that. And if you were a girl and I was a girl, right? So we're the same sex, and I mean, I am a girl, and we're the same sex, then my kids would call your kids brother and sister, and your kids would call my kids brother and sister. My kids would call you mama. Your kids would call me mama. Like, they'll call me mom. Our kids would call it, like, we would both be mother to these children, right? Similarly, if I were a boy and you are a guy, your kids would call me baba. Your kids would call me daddy, and my kids would call you baba, because you and me are essentially like one person. We're like siblings. Yeah. We're both like parents to our children. Right? And then the difference comes in when the situation is like we are right now, right? You're a guy and I'm a girl. And that's where it gets a little bit funny, right? Do you want to like explain how that will work?
Okay, so you and me being like siblings.
Yeah, brother and sister, yeah.
I would call your children. They'll be like, wait.
So you are the guy.
Yeah, I'm the guy.
And
Your
traditionally
children,
in English, you'd just be uncle, right?
Yeah, I'll be the uncle. Yeah. And your kids would call me, your kids are my nieces and nephews.
Exactly.
And your kids will call me uncle, right? Sekuru. And then my kids, however, is a bit different. So for me, your kids, I'm trying to think, with the tete whole thing. So my kids would be uncle. So my son would be an uncle to you and to your kids.
Pause. You and me are siblings.
Wait.
You and me are brother and sister.
Just to your kids. Yeah. But you
okay, so now we're talking about my kids now.
No, I'm talking about my kids now.
Your kids, okay.
Yeah.
So confused.
So now my kids, so if it's my son, because the sexes, the roles are different. So if it's my son, then they will call you tete, like auntie. Right?
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah.
Dini tete, yeah.
Yeah. And then for your kids, my son would be uncle, like how I am to you.
Sekuru, exactly. So my kids, which is my kids would call Tavonga's kids, Tavonga's male kids, uncle.
Yeah.
Which, although in English that would just normally be cousin, but in this case it would be uncle.
Yeah. So, and it comes with a whole lot of like respect and all of that, because it's, I don't know why, Shona.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. And then for my daughter, my daughter would still call you auntie or tete, but to your kids, my daughter would be their mom.
Exactly.
Their mom, basically.
Yeah.
Like, yeah. So in essence, like for me, so like my kids, like it's, so if I have one daughter and one son, in regards to your children, my son would be the uncle and my daughter would be the mom.
Exactly.
Which is very strange, because like, where's the correlation?
Yeah, it's fun. I think actually, as you're saying it right now, and I'm thinking, where's the correlation? I think it's mostly just because we're like a patriarchal society. Even though like the patriarchal culture, I know the word patriarchy has like bad connotations, but we are a patriarchal culture, right? And so a lot of respect is given to you and your kids because you are the male, I think. Because technically, if something were to happen, we're like siblings, right? If something were to happen to our father, then you become the man of the house and you become the head of the house.
Yeah.
And your children, if something were to happen to you, I don't know, man, but let's just pretend as if your kids could take care of me, who is like 40 years older than they are.
Yeah.
But actually, there's like a perfect, because our relationship right now is a perfect image of everything that you just described, right? So Tavonga and I's parents are siblings. My mom and Tavonga's dad, my mom and your dad are siblings, right?
Yeah.
Brother and sister. And so I would call Tavonga's dad sekuru, which ironically also means grandfather, but in this context is for uncle.
Yeah.
So I would call Tavonga's dad sekuru. Similarly, Tavonga's dad's son, my cousin, my uncle's son, I call sekuru as well. So Tavonga, even though we're the same age, I call him sekuru culturally. I call him uncle.
Mm-hmm.
And then Tavonga's sister, Koni, I call her mama. I call her mom. Like we all call her Mama Koni, even though she's like years younger than we all are. We call her Mama Koni. And then Tavonga calls us Vazukuru,
Mhm.
which is like nieces and nephews, but in Shona directly translates to to grandchildren.
Yeah.
um, and then so regardless of gender, regardless of our gender on like our side, we call Tavonga uncle and we call his sister mother, regardless.
Yeah.
All right. And then I am Tete. You were explaining the situation. Actually, no. My mom is Tete to you guys.
Yeah.
Right? And as far as I know, so I've been learning a little, I don't know when I was learning about this, but I found out that Tete is technically, so Tete is your father's sister, basically.
Mm-hmm.
And Tete is supposed to be, you know, when you're thinking of getting, well, Shona culture is so complicated because now I'm thinking there's also lobola, bride price stuff, which you don't really, but anyway. If Tavonga's, let's see, if Tavonga wanted to get married, I don't know if it works so much with the guys. Let's use Connie instead, your sister, right? So if Connie wanted to get married, what she's supposed to do is she can't approach her father directly about that. She's supposed to go to Tete, who is her dad's sister. And dad's sister will go and, you know, because dad's sister has like a siblingly relationship with Connie's father, you know, so she can go and say, your child has decided that she wants to get married to this boy and I'm presenting this case. But because there's like this distance between Connie and her father, again, patriarchal society, she can't go directly and do that. Her dad's sister has to be the one who goes and tells her dad that Connie, and Tete is supposed to be like a best friend, basically, the way that the culture is set up. And so she's supposed to be the one who teaches you how to be a proper woman. She's supposed to teach you how to cook and do all the stuff. Yeah. And then I'm a little scared to go into it because there's so much. I don't know if I want to like dig deeper. But yeah.
Go deeper. I'm actually learning a few things because.
Wait, really? Oh my gosh, look, I'm teaching you.
I didn't know best friends. I'm like, wow.
Yeah, so like Matipa, for example, Matipa is my brother's daughter. So Inini Ndiri Tete or Matipa, Matipa's Tete. Yeah. And the way it's supposed to be is Matipa and I are supposed to be best friends. She's supposed to feel very comfortable to come and talk to me about stuff. Of course, the mother also holds that role of like, mother is supposed to be like a friend and stuff. But Tete is supposed to be a friend in the sense of when she needs to approach her father, then I'm the one who's supposed to be able to step in and be able to like mediate her relationship with her father. It's weird because like now, you know, with Western culture, like kids just have like normal relationships with their fathers and they can talk to their fathers directly. Or if you're scared, your mom can talk to your father directly. You don't need to go around this whole route. But traditionally, like there was always that respect/fear between husband and wife, that like the wife couldn't just go and tell things to the father, but as the sister, I was able to do that, because me and the father were siblings. But yes, so
it's strange though, like the wife can't do that. Like it's not the wife's role. Like, it's the mother's role. It's, you know, it's the Tete's role. Like it's like that's my daughter. You know what I'm saying? Like
exactly.
As a mother, like speaking as a mother, like I feel like it's supposed to be like my duty to bring like such, you know, to the father of my child, but it's not correct. That's not the case.
But then we talk about like, and then you think about, you know, when we talk about roora, which is like any female person being married into a family, like they're not particularly, they're not really a part of the family, but they are, but they're not really. They can always be sent back. But then like the relationship between siblings can't be severed. That relationship remains, you know? And so, I don't know. Yeah, it's like one of those things that I'm kind of glad we've kind of moved past, and like the culture still stands. Like Anana Tete are still Anana Tete, and sekuru are still sekuru and all that stuff, but it's not as like callous or scary or terrifying as it may sound right now, describing it. And then I'm trying to think what else happens. So Iwewe, like your children would need to talk to Courtney if they wanted to get married.
Yeah.
And even that still stands till today. I know Chido went to Teta Gloria, my dad's sister, when she wanted to get married, and told her that, like, you know, even though my dad already knew, because, you know, Reggie had been coming to our house forever. We all knew Chido and Reggie were going to get married, but like traditionally, you just, you know, you go through another Teta. So one day when I decide I'm, you know, getting ready to get married, I will also go to Tete and say, Tete, I think I want to get married. And then Tete should know a lot about like lobola practices and stuff. And so she'll be the one who will like help me out through a lot of that, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Yes. And then there's the kwasha. So like life is not just hard for like Farora, the female, being married. Life is also hard for like the guys being married as well. But you know, we can all argue that it's easier for the guys, but that's a different story. There's a kwasha, right? When you marry someone, then kwasha have all this responsibility, and they're essentially the muscle of the family. Whenever there's like a funeral, the kwasha are the ones who dig graves where we come from. We don't hire grave diggers. The kwasha will come and do that. And I don't know if you ever heard this story, Tawo, but kuna vainzani, Auntie, my nini Pamela, at least to me, not my nini Pamela. My nini someone, she has she lives in South Africa.
Yeah.
And she married like a white man. And so he was the Mukwasha, right? And somebody passed away in Zim. And he, instead of coming, because he knew, if you go, you're going to have to go and dig a grave. So instead, he sent his like 2-year-old son with his wife and was like, here's your Mukwasha. Hope he can help. I've sent my representative.
That is exciting, but I love it.
So he dodged the whole thing. I think his little son is called Noah. It's like this little cute little baby. I've seen pictures of the child before. Yeah. But then, yeah, she lives, I think, my name Monica, I think is her name. But anyway, yeah, so fun stuff for the Nkwasha to do. And then, like, did I talk about lobola and...
Yeah.
I keep saying lobola. Lobola is like a developed roora. So
yeah, Shona.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, it is the same thing though. Like it's the same
concept.
Country. Yeah. But the whole roora thing though, with the whole Western society, it's with the movement of, you know, equal rights, you know, I'm all for it. It's a bit tricky. Are you
trying to George Kubadara Roora Tavonga? I can see where you're going. You're trying to not pay lobola. I see you.
No. I'm with the whole equality thing. But then at the same time, I think, you know, like the female gender like needs more protection, because reality is like we're not the same. We're not built the same. Like even like by trying to define like the characteristics of the gender, like guys are called masculine and the females are called feminine. Like
yeah, but that's from the term male and female.
Yo.
No, but I understand what you mean though, in the sense that like we are pushing for equality, but right now, like female, like women are still considerably more vulnerable to like harm because our society is very like historically, like I don't want to go into like a gender conversation, but like our society is historically like misogynistic, and women are very easily victimized. So yeah.
And one of the other things, I feel like roora, because I've heard some other conversations, like I wouldn't be totally against the idea of banishing roora. I mean, in Zimbabwe, they've already done it. They're like, you know, it's like you don't have to pay, you know, roora, you know, to get married.
Marry someone, yeah.
What I thought just came to my mind, like, and like when there's like marital problems, and like you're both married and the husband has paid the roora. If the woman, if the wife tries to go back to her house, all the time, like that roora money is gone. It's long gone. And you don't do refunds. Do you know what I'm saying? Because women, they're not products. Do you know what I'm saying? I don't believe in objectifying women. I believe respecting them, you know, as with just as much respect that I would give, you know, my male counterparts. So it in terms of it's a bit undignified that you could put a price on someone's life and say, oh, this is what you're worth. Not like it's
But
not
that's not what
necessarily
roora is, though, you know? I feel
yeah.
like that's how it's sort of like been translated into. So from my understanding of roora, I've heard a lot of like stories, a lot of different versions of what roora was supposed to be. Like one of them is something like it was supposed to be like Tavo when you decide to get married, when you decide to marry someone. Waiendesa Maria roora kumba kwemsikana wacho. Kuna baba na mai vake as sort of like an investment. Like you would take an investment to their family and say, hold on to this wealth for me, and then after you guys have your first child, they would return that wealth to you. That's one version I've heard. Another version is just that, like, which is what we hear a lot these days. It's just a token of appreciation to say to the girl's family, thank you so much for raising this girl. I think definitely it has become like commercialized from the time we started using like money, and you know, the white people, British people came over and gave us money. You know, before it was an exchange of like cattle and livestock and stuff like that, but now because of like actual having like cash money, it has become such a commercialized thing. And I think you're right, it has now tended to become more of like putting a price tag on someone. You know, I honestly respect roora, and it's something that I think I definitely want done for me when I decide to get married. So if my future husband, you're listening to this, you are going to pay bride price for me, and no, you're not buying me. I will walk out of that bride price and you and I will still have equal rights. You may be down a couple of $1,000s, but we will still have equal rights. And I respect roora just because I respect tradition. You know, and I know like my family members are going to want to do that. Like I know, and then Tavonga are very excited for the day that I, you know, get married and they get to come roora kwangu. And roora is such like a fun process. Like when Chino Paga roora, for example, it was such a fun day. Like we got to like chill, we laughed, you know, cook. It was such a fun day and I don't want to miss out on that. But yes, I think you're definitely right in the sense that it has become more commercialized and people are putting a price tag like Paka roora Mugabe when the former president's daughter got married. I think like her bride price was something along the like in the order of $20,000-$30,000. At that point, you're just selling your child.
Yeah,
and it doesn't really fare well for you in terms of like marital issues, like you're saying. If we end up fighting, imagine like fighting and thinking, look how this person has treated me. I paid $25,000 for this person and this is how they're treating me. Like it might not be intentional, but it does end up bringing in a certain level of like transactionalism into like a marriage that is not good. And I know like a lot of times girls will complain to their parents that, oh, you're charging too much for my lobola, or you're charging my husband too much. Because then, you know, Tavo, if you and I are dating and my family is charging you too much for lobola, you're bound to come and complain to me and be like, Joy, look what your family is doing. And then when that happens, I'll go to my dad and be like, Didi, look what you're doing. Actually, I'll go to Tete and be like, Tete, look what they're doing, and Didi are charging too much for my lobola. I remember when my Tete was talking to me about it, she said, you know, girls do that, but the truth of the matter is, if during their bride price, the girl's family charges the guy less, when you argue in your marriage, they're gonna say, wow, that's why your parents made you so cheap, because you're not worth anything.
Yeah.
And then if they charged you so much a lot, then they'll be like, wow, is this what I got charged so much for? You're not worth it. So there's no winning. There's no win.
In another scenario as well, like he would try to own you, like and be like, oh, like I paid
for you, exactly.
So better do this, or you know, expect this because I paid for this. You know, like it's like I want return of my investment. I want my money's worth, basically. And it's
exactly
like objectifying women and like putting a sense of ownership. You don't own it. I don't want to use the S word, you know, but
what's the S word?
SLA.
Oh, like slavery?
Because it puts like a sense of ownership. Like I paid this, you know, like and it's not small money in any case. Like you know, like I'd say like let's say like 10K. Like it's a lot of money. It
is a lot of money. But I mean, I will also say I think a part of it is like we're having this conversation and talking about all the like kind of downfalls and like the pitfalls of roora and brideprice, and in my heart I'm still like, but I still want it to get done. And part of it is because, like, again, as I mentioned, I want to honor my culture. Second of all, because I know I'm empowered beyond that, right? Like, I would never stand for, I don't care how much I love you or how smitten I am by you, I would never stand for a man who would even dare to say something along the lines of, but I paid for you to me. Like, that would never fly with me. And I know I'm empowered enough to like stand beyond that. And I respect my culture, but not to the point of standing, not to the point of like sitting through that and just like smiling along. And let's see, I don't remember what else I wanted to say.
There's also another case. Like, I feel like I'm against the way like my arguments are set up. They sound like they're against the right thing. Let the record show I'm not against it. You know, it's just a lot of things that, you know, that just come through my mind. Like when I just think about it, like just try to make me a bit more aware of my surroundings. Like in that case where like the wife, like you can't leave. Like you, as a wife, like you can't leave. Like you can't physically leave and then go back to your parents' house, because your parents, by the culture, it's like saying like the parents will say, you know,
The money's gone,
And another crazy thing that I heard recently, like gupuro. Like, do you know the actual minimum amount of gupuro that you have to pay?
Which is non-gupuro? What's gupuro?
It's like the cultural divorce.
Okay.
Yeah, and it's just 1p, bro.
Seriously, you just need to like pay 1 cent and
1 cent, yeah. And then I'm like,
that's the price of divorce.
Next level of disrespect.
And that is paid by like the guy's family?
Yeah.
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 That's
So the guy has to pay like the girl 1 cent and be like, you have to find your way. Yeah.
Wow.
It's
yeah.
It's dehumanizing. Like that, how that part of the culture is set up. It's you know, it follows the prerogative, the patriarchy prerogative, and it's sad because some people actually do that. Like I know, like I've heard about some stories where like someone was just rude to that point and he did that.
Yeah.
Raw, like you spent like a lot of years with that person. That's how you're gonna, like, if it doesn't work, at least leave with some level of respect and dignity. Live good, you know what I'm saying? And
I think okay, so I think this is really good because I think we have like a good balance of like pro and against Lobola stuff happening here. And so I think definitely there is a downside to it, which is like this feeling of like making a woman property. And part of it is, you know, when you said it's like being sent away, because bride price has been paid for you. Technically, that also means that like the children can stay behind, and the children are not yours. They technically belong to the guy's family. So the guy could say, like, I paid for you, you've done, your duty here was to come and have children. It's kind of like this, like, I'm paying for your services being taking care of the house and having children for my family so that our lineage can go on. But if I decide that I don't want to be with you anymore, I'm sending you back home, and you'll, like, sometimes, you know, guys will be like, I don't want the kids, take the kids with you, but that's completely up to them. They could just say, I want the kids. And culturally, because we're a patriarchal society, I mean, even if we're a matriarchal society, it's kind of like the kids have to go somewhere. But because we are a patriarchal society, the father can decide that these kids are mine and they have to stay with me. If we're a matriarchal society, the woman could decide, you know. And like we have matriarchal societies where women pay bride price, like, I guess groom price, they call the word dowry for guys, and they could make that decision. But I think for me, I also appreciate lobola because bride price is a good way of filtering guys who are not serious. Like to get to the point, like Tavonga was saying, bride price is not like pocket change. It's something that you actually need to like save for months, for like a long time, to plan for in the future and say, I've decided that I want to marry this person. You don't just elope and disappear, because we're also like a very communal culture, we're communal people. this individualistic view of like the West where you can just marry someone and live separate from the rest of your family is just not a thing for us. Like we live in community. And when you get married, another thing, like the other good thing about roora is that it brings the two families together. Like when this bride price stuff is happening, it's like a day-long event. Yeah. The guys' family members are there, lots of the guys' families there, lots of the girls' families there. And at the end of the day, it's a celebration. It's a way of bringing the two families together. And yeah, I just love that it's a way of filtering out people who are not serious. It's like we can play around and we can fool around for however long. But if I say, I think let's get married, and you're not serious, you're not going to fork out $5,000-$6,000 just because you're here to play around. You need to be serious to be forking out that kind of money that you're not going to get back. And I think, to be fair, it's not like the US, like the West doesn't have a similar sort of practice or tradition. Ours just happens to be that the money goes to the girl's family. On this side of the world, people do engagement rings. We don't have engagement rings on our side of the world. Like, maybe that's like a Western culture that's starting to seep into where we're from, but that's never been a part of our culture, the whole engagement ring stuff. Is you get bride price done, and traditionally that's it, you're married. We don't even have to do a wedding or stuff. But again, because of like Western culture that has infiltrated, a lot of people will now have like white weddings and stuff. And bride price isn't legally recognized under civil law. It is under like, I think it's called cultural law or something. But you still need to go get like a court wedding signature in order to actually be verified as being married. But on this side of the world, people do engagement rings. And you know how much they say you should save up for an engagement ring? About 3 months worth of your salary. That's round about the same price as bride price. So it's not like we're doing anything that's particularly like different, out of the ordinary from what the West does. Maybe the money is just going directly to, in this case, it's like you're giving me a gift that's worth 3 months of your salary. In our case, is that you're giving my family a gift that's worth about 3 months of your salary, as opposed to giving it directly to me. So yeah, in defense of bride price.
Yeah, it's a very interesting topic, though. It's a very interesting topic. Like, personally, I can't wait, for the whole experience.
Yeah.
I can't wait, to have that whole experience with Aurora. Something that, I was thinking like from a young age, like I want to experience it, it's an experience. And then, after, the bride price, you can start like organizing the wedding, it's a whole,
like the whole family is just like so excited for you once you're done with bride price stuff.
So
such good stuff. Yeah.
I'm for it, but because I've tried to educate myself and tried to do some research on it. After, that the whole process, like, you have to be very careful about what you say and what you do so that it doesn't affect your partner, because you might have paid, but then you don't own them. They're still a human being at the end of the day.
Yeah.
Their own opinions, and they can make their own decisions. It's not like whatever you say goes. Like, you might be a breadwinner, but then they're still a human being. They have the right just as much as I do. So you have to give them that level of respect, and you have to have that 50-50, partnership level. Like, it might not be the same, I guess maybe financially or emotionally, but but yeah, there has to be a balance.
Yeah.
There has to be a balance. So that you can have like a very fruitful marriage.
Yeah, definitely.
And yeah, man, like
I think I feel very fortunate because around about the time when Chino was going through her bride price stuff, my dad said to her, which I'm sure also applies to me, I'll assume this also applies to me. He said to her, because like the issue with bride prices, it's not just like your nuclear family who's involved, right? Like your extended family, your uncles and and like uncles from Ningi from there are also involved in all that process. And usually they're the ones who end up like shouting out for like ridiculous amounts of money because they have no investment in your relationship whatsoever. They're just here to like have a piece of the cake. I remember I was getting frustrated by that when her roora stuff was happening. And my dad was like, you know what, I will be the one who will negotiate with them and like talk to them and try to be more reasonable with them. And was just so frustrated. She was like, I think at some point she said to my dad, I'm thinking that maybe I just don't even want to do this roora stuff. And my dad was like, yeah, and my dad is a man of the law. My dad was like, you don't have to. It's completely like your choice if you decide that you don't want to do roora. We don't have to do roora by law in Zim. You don't have to do that. And that was such a freeing thing to hear, because it's like, if I'm choosing to do roora, it's my choice to do it. And it's not like I'm being forced to do it. But then he said that like, but if you decide that you're going to do it, we're going to do it right. We're not going to like cut out certain uncles and stuff because we don't want them to be involved. I will do my best to negotiate and talk to them and be reasonable with them. But if we're going to do it, we're going to do it right. And I appreciated that. But yes, fun times on Shona culture.
Yeah.
One day you'll be Mkwasha Tavo. And I will question mark be Roora.
Yes.
We'll see about that. But yes, this has been a wonderful conversation. And I want to kind of like wrap up a little.
Okay.
And I guess maybe not so much wrap up, but I mentioned like corporal punishment earlier on. And I was just wondering if we could go back to Tavonga Panga Shirimwana. Tavonga was still naughty, because we all know Tavonga's not naughty these days. Tavonga is like so well behaved. So
oh yeah, you're killing me.
If we can go back to a time when Tavonga Panga Chiri, Kalitu Rascal. Is there like a story that maybe you can think of when you got into trouble once?
Yo.
Are there too many jokes you are struggling to narrow down on one?
Yeah, that's not magic. They're not good.
Give us one that you would be happy to have the world out there, aware of.
Okay, so
the World Wide Web is a wide web.
Before, but the stories the ones that I got beaten for. I can't tell. I can't tell. No. But then there's this one, it's not the one that I didn't get beaten for. I was expecting, to proper get beaten. You've heard about this a lot of times.
Please. I'm like hoping it's this one specific story.
Yes, this is the one. Basically, there was a trip.
Yes! I'm so glad. I love this story so much.
There was a trip at school. I was in second grade. Mrs. Gamanya was my teacher. Shout out to Miss Gamanya. She's my favorite teacher of all time. I love you, Mrs. Gamanya.
Hold on a minute. Do you know this song called Manda Mombeshura?
Yeah.
That's what I just thought of when you said I love you, Mrs. Gamanya.
And I did my course with her daughter in the UK.
Oh, really? What are the odds? That's crazy.
I know. Anyways, back to my story. There was a trip to go to the airport, and my parents couldn't afford it. And it wasn't like everyone else was going. Like only a select few we're gonna go to the trip. Like 50-50 like distribution in class. So you wouldn't feel bad like if you didn't go. Like it was calm. Me, I was like, I don't think I'm ever gonna like have an experience like that. Like I had been to the airport before, but then the whole like the main thing like with the trip was you actually get to fly like in an airplane. And boy, did I want to fly. And I was like, I was like in my head, I'm like, if these guys can't afford, just for a trip, I don't think I can go anywhere. So I'm like, put matters into my own hands, and on the day, obviously I told my parents like I want to go to the trip, and they told me they can't afford it, and I'm like, all right, cool, it's cool, I had a lump in my throat, but it was calm. And then my teacher, Mrs. Gaman, she knew that I didn't pay, and on the day, like the person who was organizing the trip, they said, if you paid, today is the day of the trip, let's go. I'm like, did I pay? I'm like, let's see how far I can go. So honestly, like Mrs. Gamanyan was like, Tavonga, did you pay? I'm like, yeah. Like when? On Wednesday. Okay. This is gonna be so much fun. And then I went, and then in the bus, I thought they were gonna check the names Then they're like, so everyone in here paid, yeah? Everyone was like, yeah. Obviously, no one's gonna say no. And then I went, and I didn't even have enough lunch for, to sustain me at the trip because it wasn't part of the plan. And obviously, like, but they had like some snacks there, but like they were not filling. Went there in the bus, got to the airport, had fun, didn't check any names or anything. It was like, wow, I'm like, why didn't everyone else come through, man? Because everything's in free. And then come to the, the point that everyone was waiting for to actually fly, to get into the plane and fly. Excuse me. They started checking the names, like to see, so that people don't go in twice. Yeah, not that like to check if people actually paid. Just make sure that people don't go in twice and just wait your turn. And then started checking names. And I even asked my friend, I think his name was Humphrey. I'm like, yo, Hamu, the beans I'm laying. It will be there, like I want to get in the queue. And they're like, no, he's like, no, wait for your turn. I didn't want to tell him, like, yo, I'm not on the list. And then I'm like, cool. And then I just waited in the back of the line, like after Hamu, because Hamu was probably going to say, like, he was probably going to snitch on me. Like, he looked like that guy. And I was too clever for my own good at the time. And I just waited and I sneaked in. I don't know how I even got into the plane because they were calling out names and then they were checking it, like to get into the plane. I'm like, cool. I got in the plane. I did one dako with one passenger. And I was like, one but we're all sat in the same seat. I'm like, yo, bro, please don't snitch on me. I'm like, I think they forgot my name, but obviously I'm here because I paid, but I want to get it. It's like, yeah, cool.
This was not Hamu, I assume.
It was not Hamu. He was like, nah, I'm not sitting with you. Then, the whole plane ride, it was sick. It was amazing. Got come back down. They're checking the list again. I'm like, why are you guys checking the list? Like, you checked it once.
You think someone jumped off the plane when they
and they're checking. I'm like, oh, and then they're like, everyone, like, after you literally come out of the plane, you see, like they'll get you, they'll put you inside the airport, like into the entrance of the airport, and then they'll make us sit down. And they're like, oh, and then you call your name out, and then you go. You like stand up and go, and then the toilets were literally right there, like at the front. Like, so a lot of people like wanted to go to the toilet. They're like, oh, what's your name? They're like, then the ticket, like, oh, cool, rush. And then I was like, oh, and then so I could see like I knew they're not gonna call my name. So I was like, can I go to the toilet? They're like, yeah, don't worry, we're almost finished, I'm like, oh, that was each other. No, sit down. They're like, what's your name? Like, Tavonga and McGuinn's. Nah, it's not. Like, are you sure about that? I'm like, yeah. When did you pay? It's a Friday. Knowing damn well that I didn't pay. And then they tried to check everywhere. We can't get, it was a disaster. It was just.
So you got caught in the end.
I got caught, but after
the plane trip though, so.
Yeah, I was like, you caught me now, but it's a bit too late. So it was a good experience for me. Like, I enjoyed it, but then when I went home, they informed like Mrs. Gamanya, they're like, yeah, your pupil didn't pay. Like, how did you let him leave? It's like, it's not my responsibility. You guys didn't check really, so it wasn't really my responsibility. And then when I went, so we came back around 4 p.m. Bear in mind, first graders, they leave school at 12. Second grade, 12. And then grade 3 to 7, they leave at 1. I came back at 4. And I used to get picked up. Like, I used to live literally up, like I used to live like opposite the school that I used to. So like, I never like used to like walk long distances. Like, literally less than a minute. As soon as I leave the school gate, I would get home. I would, and our maid, like, she would come and pick me up, but she came and I wasn't there. Like, oh, my Mrs. Gamanya was like, Tavonga's not here. He went to the trip. And then she was like, but he didn't pay. Like, he said he paid. So So obviously, like, she went back because I wasn't gonna come back anytime soon, and she didn't know what time we were actually gonna come back.
Yeah.
So they just had to assume like I was just gonna have to go on my own. And anyways, I used to live close to the house, so it was calm. And then went back, my mouth red, I had some raspberry. And then, then I went to Miss Gamanya and she's like, Tavonga, May was asking for you. Well, did you pay? Like, I got a couple phone calls and blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, yeah, I didn't pay. So
wow.
got home. Mom was home already. Dad was home already. I was so tired, like I couldn't even be asked. I would just go home, went to bed straight. I was tired and hungry.
Yeah.
But the hunger was just fed into the
secondary. Yeah.
Woke up and then I have dinner. Like everything is cool. I'm like, I got away with this. And then they're like, yo, Tavonga. And then they explain the situation to me. They're like, now we have to pay in installments.
Oh, Shona.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm sorry, guys. Like, I couldn't go to work and try. They're like,
oh, Shona.
No, you ain't gonna go work. You're like 6 years old. So, yeah, it was an experience, but I got into serious trouble for that. Yeah,
amazing.
They're like, we're not gonna get you any presents, or like we're not gonna buy you, like we're not gonna take you out or anything because now we have to save up, to pay for the that you went to without.
Yeah.
But I got into trouble for that. But
yeah.
I don't
Damn. Wow. At least I'm very surprised you weren't.
I know.
You weren't beaten for that. That's like standard. You get beaten for that.
At that point, I had survived a couple of beatings, so they were just like.
That's impressive. Wow. Good for you. You're so lucky. You're so lucky, honestly. Yeah. Amazing, Tabo. So I just have like a few more questions for you, which are like short answer questions, and we'll see. I'm curious to know the answers to some of these questions. How old were you when you had your first crush?
I think I was like 5, 6.
5?
No, I think 6. 6. Yeah. My neighbor. Oh.
Your neighbor.
So we used to we used to rent the house literally where I used to live then, like when the whole story. And at the landlord, there's this girl. Her name was Sarah. She's in the UK now, but she's
wow.
But she was beautiful then, and she's beautiful now. She was my crush, but then she was a bit bougie. We had 3-year age difference, so I think
damn, you were into the older girls.
No, sorry. So it's 3 years younger than me.
So she was 2.
No, I think no. Listen, she never used to leave the house like that though. Like, so when she, I think, it's a bit hazy. All right? And then her best friend who used to live next door, she was 2 years younger than me, but she was smart. And
so you had a crush on this 2-year/3-year-old.
Yeah. No, well, the other one was 4.
Okay.
Yeah. And I got into a lot of trouble with them too.
Wow. That's hilarious. That's so funny. Let's see. I don't remember when my first crush was, but the first guy I remember who liked me, I was in grade 1, and he used to try to be my friend and stuff. I think his name was Tatenda. I don't remember what his name was, but I remember there were 2 people in the class who had the same name as him, and he was one of them. And he always used to try and sit next to me in class. And then at break time, he always used to buy me stuff from the tuck shop. So I was not complaining. I was getting treats at break time. So that was nice. But yes, that was my first crusher. I don't know, whatever the term is. And how old were you when you had your first girlfriend?
Well, apparently at this age, we don't consider, if it was a high school fling, anything before high school, anything during high school or before, we don't count it. So
it has to count. I want to know what was before high school.
I had my first girlfriend when I was in Form 3.
Really? Like first one? Or are you like not counting before high school people? Are you cheating me?
I'm not. You know the person though, that's the thing. Starts
Like
the,
I do. What starts with the what?
the B.
A B.
She
Wait,
was.
wait. Did I know her as in Taisiwana?
You met her. She was my best friend's sister.
I knew it. I knew that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Oh, and do you know he's getting married? Did
Are you
see his Facebook
serious?
post? Yeah, I saw like his Facebook post maybe like a month ago or something, and it was some ceremony thing, but it wasn't quite like the wedding itself.
Bro.
Yeah, he's getting married. How crazy is that? Yeah, but not they do it.
Since he went to Mozambique, like we proper fell out. Like
Yeah. But yeah, let's see. I think my first boyfriend, you know about, was when I was 10. When I was in grade 5. Yeah.
Ah!
That was my first boyfriend. But of course, you know, it was just a kid relationship. We just used to text a lot. And I was kind of very rough to him actually towards the end, because the way I broke up with him is I felt guilty. And so I sent him an email. I sent this 11-year-old boy an email to break up with him. Not even a text. Because he was in boarding school and I was still in primary school. He had just started Form 1. He was in boarding school. So I emailed him to tell him that I wanted to break up. It was like such a pretty eloquent email, especially for a 10-year-old, explaining why I think it was time for us to break up, because I felt bad because I was a good Christian girl and my mom didn't approve of me dating. So we needed to end it. So that was my first boyfriend, Leo.
I'm
Such a sweet guy. Thank you. Except I was dating someone else a year later. So
well,
of course. It was very unfortunate. But yes. Cool. What are you thinking?
A year later.
Yeah. Oh, maybe like a year and a half later. Wait,
Yeah.
okay, listen. So I started dating Rio like towards the end of grade 5. And then we broke up halfway through grade 6. So we dated for a while, actually. So we dated for about 6 months. And that's been my longest relationship to date. Don't ask questions. And then...
all right.
And then, so halfway through grade 6. And then I started dating another guy at the end of grade 7. So a year and a half later after that. But then that relationship lasted like 2 weeks because Chido found out. And she threatened to tell Mama about it if I didn't break up with him.
Okay.
Yes.
Kudos for that.
She blackmailed me, but whatever.
I love it.
Sisters. But yes, thank you so much, Tavo. What's something that you're looking forward to either sometime in the next couple of days?
Next couple of days. I'm excited to do 5,000 words.
Impressive. So your work is this for your masters?
Yeah.
How far are you now with those words?
Well, so far I'm just doing like computer models.
Okay.
For my dissertation. I'm literally like just finished. I'm supposed to do like around 20 to 30 models. Okay. And like it could take me an hour to do one model. So and my attention span is very, very, very limited. So but right now I'm like around 18.
Okay.
So I just need like two more
models. Okay. Can you tell our lovely listeners what your master's is in so that they can admire my twinnie?
Oh yeah, I'm doing a master's in civil engineering. My dissertation topic is about finite element analysis in enhancing construction quality in reinforced concrete. So yeah, if there's anyone who was interested in like in civil engineering, because I'm doing a master's, like I'm pretty well off in terms of like bachelor level questions, like level 6 questions or even level 7 questions in civil engineering.
Okay.
So, just do feel free, to pop up.
And where can they hit you up?
You can find me on LinkedIn.
I was not expecting that.
Yeah, because I'm not trying to. LinkedIn, Tavonga Roy Magwenzi.
Okay, I will add a link to that in the episode description.
Or my Instagram, just Tavonga Roy. So
okay.
That's my middle name. So,
okay.
Yeah.
So they can catch you on IG at Tavonga Roy and on LinkedIn at Tavonga Roy Magwenzi.
Yeah, boy.
Awesome. Wow, Tavo, it's been a pleasure talking with you. I really appreciate you so much, and I always look forward to our Monday calls. So we call every Monday and watch this show called Chambers together, and we just chat a little. Yeah. And it's such a pleasure to have someone on the show that I not only love, but I actually like and love spending time with. So I love you, and I'm sure you know this already. I tell you every time I call you.
Yes, I love you too, and I like you too.
Yeah, thank you. Well, you couldn't help yourself.
Sure. Oh yeah. For our listeners, I don't know if this is a coincidence, but our middle names, like Roy and Joy.
Yes, that's true.
Right?
Roy and Joy, and we're a little 5 days apart. So yeah, I love you so much, and I'm really grateful that you chose and agreed to be my guest on the show.
Me?
Yeah, you.
Oh, yeah. I thought you said yeah.
No. Awesome. All right. So, dude, thank you so much.
Anytime.
This is great. And you're so wonderful for just doing this, like, immediately for me. Just have a good night. Say good night to Mama for me when she comes home. Tell her I said hi.
I will. Please say hi to, what's his name? Johnny.
Joe?
Chris.
What?
Already mind. Hey.
It's very sad. All right, my love. Have a good night.
You too. Take
care.
I love you.
I will. All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Y'all, I had so much fun in that conversation. Like a huge, biggie thank you to you, Tavonga, my cousin, Sekuru Magwe. You were such a wonderful guest, and I would definitely love to have you on the show again. So if you're watching or listening, you can definitely expect to see Tavonga on the show again. Thank you so much for tuning into this episode and listening to this entire episode. You are the GOAT. I really hope you enjoyed this conversation and that you were able to think through some of the topics that we talked about as well, from police brutality, moving from Zim, or the diaspora experience, stories of growing up and mischief. And I just hope that was an enjoyable experience for you. Check out Tavonga's social media. Check out the Candid Shar'n social media if you haven't already. So that's at Candid Shar'n on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Candid Shar'n with QueenJoy on YouTube. And CandidShar'n.com to check out the blog / the website. Happy weekend, everybody. Have fun, get some rest. If you're in the Northern Hemisphere, stay warm. If you're in the Southern Hemisphere, stay cool. And I will see you next week. Reach out to someone who you haven't spoken to in a while. You might be making their day by just, sending a quick text. So everybody, have a great weekend. Keep it candid. Keep on sharing. And I'll see you next week.
Okay, Tavo, I know you're really big on dad jokes.
Yeah.
Can you give me one?
What do you get from adding an angry cow and an angry sheep? You get two animals which are in a bad mood.